Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lecture 3 for History 2013, U.S. History at 1865. Lecture 3 today, we're going to cover new social orders, colonial society. So we're actually going to take a look at the colonizations efforts of Spain, England, and France, and the Netherlands, and take a look at kind of comparing and contrasting, seeing what each one of them's doing, if it's better, if it's worse, how it's working for them. Generally speaking, we're going to be covering the years 1500 to 1700 in this lecture today. We're going to be covering 4 topics. European exploration, so we're just going to kind of revisit, slightly quickly recap the exploration map from last lecture. Then we're going to take a look at each of the countries here. Forgot that word. Dutch and French colonization with section 2, English settlements for section 3, and then finally taking a look at colonial impacts here. So let's go ahead and get started. If it cooperates. There we go, Spanish exploration. Now we're going much ahead. Just revisiting this map, taking a look at this again from last week, trying to keep in mind what's going on in Europe. Everybody's on top of each other. There's so much competition between each of the countries, and that's primarily going to be the main motivator behind their colonization efforts here. So keep that in mind as we move through. We are going to have, remember that Portugal is going to kick us off, right? They're going to be the first ones to start navigating. We're going to have Prince Henry the Navigator. He's going to be taking us all around Africa, reporting back, really kicking it off. And then we're going to have these Spanish settlements all throughout the Caribbean islands, the tip of South America, and then into Central America and North America as well throughout their time. This is a representation. Pretty much everywhere that you see a route starting at, a colony was formed there or some sort of permanent settlement there. And then keeping in mind those problems that are going on in Europe, this competition specifically between England and Spain, and that Spain is kind of losing their supremacy where this colonization effort is concerned. And again, looking at this map, that quickly on the heels of Spain having so much success trying to gatekeep it, England, France, and the Netherlands are just going to be right there behind them, ready to go, ready to colonize. So starting it off with an important one for us here locally in Louisiana, France, and then also just a small, Denmark does not have very good luck here. This is a map of what's going on and what the continent kind of looks like in 1650. Spain here in yellow has high amounts of permanent settlements all throughout Mexico and Central America, even up into part of Texas, Arizona here, all through the islands and Florida. Collectively, this is going to be called Viceroyalty of New Spain here. Pink here is going to be England, the British colonizations up here in Canada, and then down through New Hampshire into the top of the Carolinas here. Now you'll see New Sweden and New Netherlands here. New Sweden, we're going to ignore. They are not around for very long. They're not really is not a very big colonization effort from them. So we're not really going to talk about them. New Netherlands, we'll talk about it a little bit because they do last a little bit longer and then eventually becomes New York, right? So we want to have an idea of that. But it's a really tiny settlement tucked in between the British settlements here. I see my video is kind of going crazy. All right, fix itself. And then up here in purple, we have the beginnings of New France, French colonization here. Now you may be wondering, oh, why is it not? What's going on here? France eventually will come back down here, but this is when we first start our colonization efforts in 1650. This is what the land looks like here for us. Now, zooming in on France, at the height of its colonization efforts, it's going to have the majority of Canada, all of the Great Lakes region, and then they're going to follow the river all the way down to its mouth here in Louisiana. They'll settle Mobile, most of Mississippi, and all of Louisiana and New Orleans. Now, the important thing to know about France is that Each country goes about interacting with the Native Americans in a completely different way. Part of this is their own culture, the European culture that they're bringing. Part of it is the specific Native American societies that they are encountering and how they are encountering those societies. Spain, for example, is going to encounter the societies, immediately judge them as not having any real intellect, as being a subservient species of humans, and treat them as such, right? Kind of bulldoze them into everything. England, as we'll see in a minute, will treat Native Americans, they will try to have um, direct dialogue with them. And for some of those societies, it'll work for them. In other societies, they'll have really bad interactions with. France, on the whole, is going to treat each society as sort of an equal, right? They don't necessarily think that they are equal to the Native Americans, but they're going to treat them that way. So, what do we mean by that? Well, we mean that when they go to trade goods with them, it's going to be majority of the time on good faith, right? That they're trying to give something of equal value. Um, the French will have a much better working relationship with the Native Americans than either of the other two countries that we're going to, or other three countries that we're going to look at. And it's a very unique relationship, and it sets them up in a particularly well placed, well suited spot in order to keep that settlement, keep that colonization effort up for them, and will allow them to follow the water. That's what they do kind of the best, is they follow the water sources to find good areas to settle. And that's eventually how it takes them all the way from the tip of Canada down to the mouth of the Mississippi River here. Let's see. Oh, me gotta get back. Oh, it's on this map as well. I apologize. Don't have a map for them. The Dutch are going to be in my English settlements. Is going to be where you can see them better. This pink here is going to be the Dutch settlements. So that's going to be the areas of New York, things like that. But they are going to have a better time. They're not going to have much interactions with the Native Americans. They're going to build primarily just New York as their main settlement, but it'll be called New Amsterdam for them. But England's going to come around and kind of take any area that's not already claimed on the eastern coast, right? So they're going to take this area between France and New Amsterdam, the Dutch, in the north, right? So between Canada and New York, New Amsterdam. And then they're going to come on the other side of New Amsterdam and then go all the way down till they hit Spain here. So they put themselves directly in competition with these other countries. Whereas when Spain had a lock on the southern area of the New World, France goes to the top, right? And eventually they come down, but they go to the top. Netherlands are going to start kind of on their own. They're not that close to the French settlements here. Britain's not going to give a care. Britain's going to go and put themselves up against all of the colonies that existed here and put themselves in direct competition. Now, what does that mean for us? It poses an immediate threat to Spanish and French societies, colonizations. And what we have as we go through the 1700s, and I'm sorry, through the 1600s, and we get to 1700, the outlook, the way that we have societies settling here is going to put them kind of inevitably in direct competition. And you might be asking, where did New Amsterdam go? Britain kind of forces the Netherlands into letting them take over their colony of New Amsterdam. They really put a lot of pressure on the Netherlands to agree to that. And then for the Netherlands, New Amsterdam is not making enough money for them. They're not getting a big enough return on their investment there. So they kind of are okay with letting it go. Britain will take over New Amsterdam, change its name to New York, and officially make it a British colony. And what we get when we get to the 1700s is that these countries are not trying to give each other breathing room. They're kind of putting themselves in direct competition again just like they do in Europe, just in their homelands, right? They butt themselves up against each other so tightly during these areas that it kind of makes it inevitable that eventually there's going to be a problem. There's going to be some kind of confrontation that comes for it, and there is. Just to give you a perspective, this is that same map. So if we look here, right, we've got New Spain, New France, and the British colonies. This is another map of the United States here, modern day. Each color is a different Native American society that existed here prior and during the colonization efforts from Europe. So when we talk about these areas, when we talk about New Spain, we talk about New France, we talk about the British colonies, we have to keep in mind that they are literally on top of the land that was already inhabited by other people, cultures, and societies, right? That it's not coming out of nowhere, that they are putting themselves there, they're taking and causing whatever kind of issues or relationships that they are doing with the Native Americans. Um, and that is both going to help and hurt them as they then in turn go into competition with the other European colonizations, other European countries and colonies that exist in this time period and in these areas as well. Well, this was a very quick lecture. Just wanted to give an overview of what's going on in the New World as these colonies are happening. So that'll be the end of lecture 3 for us. As always, if you have any questions or you want to see any of these maps or images up close, put a message into the questions form or send me an email. But that's going to be it for lecture 3 here, and I'll see you guys back here for lecture 4.